This is the Passive 25K podcast, a podcast built around the vision of creating wealth through passive income for ourselves and others. The idea of creating income while you sleep seems like a dream come true, but for most professionals, turning this into a reality is a different story. On this show, you will hear real people breaking passive income streams down to the basics, giving you the next steps to start your own passive income journey. If you're new to the show, my name is Kyle Reedstrom from Fargo, North Dakota, where I get to work with my team of agents and investors each day to complete our goal of $25,000 a month in passive income. Now, let's get right into our next conversation. This is the Passive 25K podcast with Kyle Reedstrom, the home of Passive Income University, and of course, Cash Flow Coaching, which we are now live with on our website, p25kg.com. There's another little plug. But I'm most excited about today's episode 16, The Riches Are in the Niches, with Kasim Aslam, my friend Kasim Aslam, who I've met through Front Row Dads. He's became a brother. We're actually in what's called a band together. So we're like, we do a call monthly. So we've gotten to know each other really well. Kasim, thanks for coming on, man.
Kyle, thanks for having me.
So before I get started, Kasim, I want to introduce you to the audience. And it's an impressive introduction, so I hope people keep they buckle into their seat here. So Kasim is the founder and CEO of Solutions 8, the world's top-ranked Google Ads agency, or as you like to put it, the biggest Google Ads agency on the planet. I've heard you say that a few times, but it's true. And he is the traffic coach for digitalmarketer.com's elite coaching program, was hand-selected by Ryan Dice. Is that right? Ryan Dice, yes. Ryan Dice to help create Digital Marketer's new paid traffic certification, and is the co-host of Perpetual Traffic, one of the top marketing podcasts in the world. Recipient of Arizona Interactive Marketing Association's 2017 TIM Award for the Person of the Year, Kasim was also known as one of the top 50 digital marketing thought leaders in the United States by the University of Missouri in 2020. His book, The 7 Critical Principles of Effective Digital Marketing, was featured as one of the top 100 digital marketing books of all time by Book Authority. As a professional speaker, Kasim has been a main stage MC for the Traffic and Conversion Summit, the largest marketing conference in North America, and speaks regularly at marketing conferences around the globe. He and his wife have 2 sons. They split their time between Scottsdale, Arizona, and Seattle, Washington. Kasim, people just got blown away a little bit. Break that down for us. Tell the people who you are and what you do if they didn't catch all your accolades already.
Yeah, I'm sick of me already. I'd like to say that I'm the world's greatest failure. And there's a lot of truth to that. I think that everything that I've done in life has been about failing forward, if I can steal from John C. Maxwell. I run ads for a living. My agency manages $54 million in ad spend, which is not insignificant. And the thing that's interesting about running paid traffic for a living is most online ads fail to the tune of like 80 to 90%. Like most online ads will fail. And so it puts you in an environment where you have to have a paradigm that allows you to approach failure as learning and not as loss. And there's something that's done for me, dude, that's just been, I can't even take credit for it. I fell backwards into this accidentally, but just being in that environment over an extended period of time is I think really positioned me as an entrepreneur to know, even if something fails 80, 90%, still it succeeded 10 to 20%. You know what I mean? And if you can grab that, capture it, and then do it again, it doesn't take too many iterations before you built your bridge. And then you go back and do it again, and you do it again. And that's been instrumental in everything I've been able to accomplish. What little I've been able to accomplish, let's say.
Man, it's always interesting to see a bio that's stacked like that. But dude, it's true. I've seen the work you do. I've seen a lot of behind the scenes in the last year and a half. We've known each other, a year or so. We've known each other. And dude, the title of today's podcast is so appropriate because it touches on your own business and many more. But we titled this. I was like, Kasim, I want to call this something, and you were like, The Riches Are in the Niches. And I want you to set the stage for us on why that is the title and what that means.
Every time I niche down, I make more money. And what I've noticed, especially with early stage entrepreneurs, myself included, by the way, there's such a significant fear of missing out that they set out to be everything to everyone. And it's a catastrophic error. If you take every axis of analysis available to you inside of any entrepreneurial endeavor, right? So think operations, marketing, sales, avatar, HR, hiring. If you're broad, all of those things are broad, and you're dealing with this huge landscape. The second you niche down, as long as you're niching down effectively, it narrows your focus. If you've ever gone shooting, every firearms instructor I've ever run into, every marksman, I should say, they all have the same saying. It's aim small, miss small. Aim small, miss small. And what that means is the smaller the target you're aiming at, the less likely it is that you miss. And so, if you're looking at, not to get morbid, but let's say you're looking at a human avatar that you're shooting at, right? Like that's your target. If you're just aiming at the outline of the person, then that's a large target. But if you go aim for like the sternum, now you've narrowed your focus. And again, forgive the morbid analogy, it's the best one I've got. But I think that can and should be applied to businesses. I've built 3 million and multi-million dollar agencies, all of them niche. I have a Google Ads agency, not a marketing agency, not a digital marketing agency, not a paid traffic agency, a Google Ads agency. I have a Montessori school agency. So that's not schools, it's not private schools, it's not private preschools, it's private Montessori preschools. And my first successful exit as an entrepreneur was an agency called GeoFlip, which we were generating motivated seller leads. So it wasn't real estate, it wasn't retail real estate, it was distressed property. And in each instance, the benefit I gave myself was knowing exactly who I'm selling to, exactly who I'm going after, exactly who I need to hire, exactly what we need to deliver on. And if you can niche down, and by the way, this isn't just for marketing, this is for all businesses. We were talking about a buddy before we started recording. Our buddy Doug is in the recruiting space. And my advice to him was, dude, go niche down. What if you only recruited, and just using a random example, right? What if you only recruited COOs for website design agencies? And you might think like, dude, come on. Like that is the nichiest a niche could possibly get. But now all the content you create speaks directly to a very specific avatar. Everything that you deliver on speaks directly to a specific output. Everybody you're trying to recruit speaks directly to a specific proficiency. And if there's there's hundreds of thousands of website design agencies out there, and guess what? All of them, their hardest hire, and I can tell you this because I know a ton of them, their hardest hire is the COO. It's the integrator, if you're familiar with the traction model. And so when you niche down, you make everything easier. And I think maybe most importantly, you instantly establish yourself as a thought leader. You become the world authority because nobody else wanted to own that space but you. So now if you're creating content or trying to optimize for specific key phrases, or you're trying to get speaking engagements, you want to get on podcasts, you want to get on stage, you're an authority. It becomes easy to write the book and easy to develop the keynote.
Man, I literally wrote down the question, Kasim. This is ringing in my ears because it's for me, it's for everybody that's listening. It's the classic FOMO that the world has trained us to feel if we're not doing everything and everything all the time. Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard to understand this inverse relationship that you explain? Every time you niche down, your income ramped up, amplified up, multiplied up. Our returns, or even if you don't want to use income numbers, your goals doubled, tripled, 10x'd. Why is this such a hard thing to grasp? It seems like it shouldn't be so groundbreaking.
Yeah, there's a saying, niche down to scale up. And I can tell you again, it's not because I'm smart. It's because I failed. My agency is called Solutions 8 because we used to have 8 core service offerings. We were what's called a full stack marketing agency. So we did website design and SEO and graphic design and pay-per-click and video production and. And what's funny about it is I remember I had a revenue goal set for myself. And I told myself, man, once I get here, like that's it. I'm happy. All my bills are paid. I'm stacking cash. I've got, I've made it. And when I got there, I looked at the business that I built and I could not have been more miserable. I had 25-ish clients at the time, but each one of them was different. I was basically the marketing director for 25 different companies that all had 25 different needs, would yell at me for 25 different things. There was no way for me to scale, no way for me to productize, no way for me to build systems. And what's funny, the reason niching down is hard is because you have to take a very substantial step back. 1, 2, you have to be disciplined when opportunity presents itself. And then 3, the scale up is slow. And I'll go through each of those in sequence if you don't mind. You take a step back because you kind of cut off other opportunities. And so where you were making money from a bunch of different channels, you cut those different channels off. So now step back. 2, while you're sitting there trying to grow the niche or the niche, I haven't decided how I want to say it, by the way, people vacillate between the two. Other opportunities present themselves. And now it's like, dude, not only I took a pay cut basically, and here's this thing staring me in the face that's easy money, but the minute you seize that opportunity, you dilute yourself. And so step back, stagnate, be disciplined, and then commit yourself to slow incremental growth. And those are hard things for people to do. But if you're willing to do them, if you look at, my favorite example is Amazon. Amazon started selling books. What? You know what I mean? Like the world's largest e-commerce retailer started selling one product. And it's because Bezos is a freaking genius. And he knew, all right, I have a logistics problem I need to solve. I can't solve that problem if I'm selling everything to everybody. So I'm just going to go sell used books. And then he built his entire model off of this one product. And then he started to expand. So the thing to keep in mind if you're suffering from FOMO is you don't have to stay niched. You use the niche in order to build the systems, build the scale, build the profitability, and then you get to expand back out. So it's like an hourglass. You narrow, you taper in order to gain efficiency. And then once you've done that, then you can explode back up again.
Man, what an ironic thing that you brought up with your company's called Solutions 8. And then you turned into realistically Solutions 1.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But it's the exact way I think about business. I think it's what we talk about business. It's like, hey, how can we be the one-stop shop?
Right.
Like that's the mentality that you want. It's almost it's kind of an antiquated mentality. In fact, it used to be the general store back in the day, and we're not there anymore. This is about
who's ever been happy with a one-stop shop?
Yeah,
all of your buying experiences are specialized.
Yes, you're right. The best experiences are the ones that are highly specialized. If you're getting everything, you're getting average everything.
Right.
Maybe even below average. And I think it plays into people's strengths too. I know we're getting broad with this topic right now, but the beauty of having a niche is you just get to look at yourself, look at your skills, look at what you have, the resources you have, and say, let's just pick one thing and dive really, really, really deep. It definitely brings up a lot of questions.
Here's my advice to early stage entrepreneurs is don't niche down too soon. So that's counter to, it's like, well, wait a minute, dude, the pendulum just swung all the way to the wrong side. You need to know what works, what you're good at, what you can execute on. So if you enter a market and you're brand new, you're a freshman, right? It's okay to kind of be the handyman, to come in and be like, hey, what do you need? What do you want? As long as you're presenting yourself properly and you're not over promising or lying about your proficiency, I think it's okay to step into a market and be like, all right, I know I want to be a digital marketer. I know I want to be a real estate guy. I know I want to be a financial planner, whatever. And then to give yourself that sandbox, as long as you treat it like a sandbox. But then the minute you start to say like, gosh, every time I deal with this avatar or every time I deal with this service, which by the way, those are the two axes, right? You have an X and a Y axis. There's a service niche and then there's a industry niche. And when you have both, you get crosshairs. Now you know exactly who to target and how to target them. My general advice, as I've thought through this, is you want to niche down on the service first, generally speaking. And you want to niche down on the service first because, again, here's a horrible analogy for you.
So imagine Kasim, you're saying I've heard you say it in the terms of offer, your service. This is what you're providing. This is what you're niching down in first.
Right. Product service. That's exactly right. Okay. So, and here's why I say that. If you think of your products and services as tools on a tool belt, You come in, and I'm going to use digital marketing because that's my background. But again, you can apply this to literally everything, being a CPA, being an attorney, doesn't matter. All the tools encumber you. So picture in your mind's eye, really visualize this. Somebody with every tool that they could possibly use. You sit there with the Rambo sheet and the tool belt and things hooked up to your thighs and your calves, and you're like, what do you need? I can do all of it. As you niche down from an industry perspective, all those tools are still on your tool belt. You're still encumbered. So it doesn't matter if you're like, okay, I'm only going to help dentists. You still walk in just kind of overwhelmed with the offering. So I like niching down with the offer first, with the service or product first, because that helps free you. And then you go figure out what industry or industries you want to niche down into. The only exception is if you've got really phenomenal inroads with a very specific industry. If you're like, oh, my dad is an arborist. He was the president of the Arborist Association. I've got every arborist on the planet on my email list, and I know for a fact I can go after arborists. In that case, I'm like, all right, go start helping arborists and figure out how to serve them, how to love on them, which leads me to one of my favorite pieces of niching down. Dude, I can deliver so much more value than other people can deliver. Because when I'm niched down, especially if I look at my Montessori agency, what I give Montessori schools, Kyle, nobody could touch. Nobody could possibly compete with ever, because I'm able to invest so much on such a granular level. We've written a blog for every single week since January of 2018. So if you go into and that's just one example, blogs, emails, social posts, Instagram posts, stock
that they
photos,
can use. That's a service that you're providing them.
Years of content that if Montessori school came to a content provider and said, hey, I need blogs, in order to do that custom for one school, that's a $4,000 or $5,000 engagement right there. But if I'm selling the same content to all the schools, I get to produce the highest value content they've ever been exposed to. It doesn't matter that it's duplicate content because they're all geo-specific. They're serving a user base within 6 miles of their school. Statistically speaking, 80% of all students come within 5 miles of a Montessori school. And so I'm able to over-engineer my offer and then undercharge for it.
Man, and I wanted to get to that Montessori school example because, Kasim, this is a very tangible example of one of the riches are in the niches for you. You started Nido Marketing. Is that how you pronounce it? Nido Marketing.
Nido, it's Italian for nest. Nido Marketing.
Okay. Nido Marketing. You decided to niche down and say, I'm just going to provide. Did you start with just one offer and then your industry was obviously Montessori?
Yeah. So the benefit I have with Nido Marketing is I had a client who was a Montessori school who hired my agency to do Google ads. And he kept saying, because we were crushing it for him, but he was a big school. He has 4 locations. He's in Sacramento. He has a big spend. And every time I was on the phone with him, he was so thrilled with us. I think we were like his 7th agency or something over the course of a decade. And he finally found somebody who worked. It was us. And he goes, man, every school can use this. And I'm like, well, Matt, go sell it to him. I'll give you a cut. And he's like, nobody can afford you. But he only had to say that so many times before I was like, all right, we got to find a way to streamline this because there's an opportunity there. And I happen to have an obsession with Montessori schools. My children go to Montessori school. I think every child deserves to go to Montessori school. So for me, it started as a passion project before I even realized how, I felt like everything, dude. I just failed into it. I fell backwards. And then I realized the profitability there, the scalability.
And so you jumped in. This thing has been a huge success for you. Over the course of time, you've essentially found your industry. You already had your specific offering at the beginning was your Google ads, right?
Right.
And then you partnered with an access point, a partner essentially. And now you're providing this niche service. Tell us how it's gone for you.
Yeah. So I call that access point the lighthouse. If you have this service and you're trying to break into an industry, go find your lighthouse. And that's the person. They don't have to be famous in the space. They just need to be connected in the space. And so Matt Hillis, who's my partner at Nido Marketing, he's Montessori royalty. His mom started a school. He was on the board of the Montessori Administrators Association. He speaks at Montessori events. He's a young fella where most of the Montessorians are kind of, they're generally left behind technologically speaking. So he was adept and people really trusted him. And so when we brought an offer from Matt that they trusted, I made Matt a partner, and it was the best thing I ever did because it gave me those inroads. And then once we got into schools, then we started expanding our offering. This is the hourglass I'm talking about. So now instead of just Google ads, we do Google ads, we do paid traffic, both Google and Facebook. We do websites, we do content, we do CRM, we do stock photos. And we're able to provide so much more than we would have if we tried to do this custom on a per school basis. So every time we think about a new service offering, the question is will this serve 80% of the schools? And because I'm so niched down, the answer is always yes. There's only 4,500 accredited Montessori schools in the United States, which is effectively zero adjusted for margin of error. You know what I mean? If you think about how many businesses there are, but that's why it works so well. So the litmus test that I use for myself is if you're going to niche down, can you create the content for this industry? And an example, I'm about to get into martial arts with a new business partner of mine. He's famous in the martial arts space. He's been in movies. Everybody knows him. And we didn't go after martial arts as a niche. It's too broad. We're going after karate schools first. And after karate, we're going to go kickboxing. After kickboxing, we're going to go Brazilian jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai. And you're going to go tackle each individual specific niche. A niche that I'd love to get into is dance schools. But I wouldn't just go dance. I'd start with ballet, right? Or jazz or clay. So you want to go as niche as possible so that the offering you provide them is not diluted. Because if I just said martial arts, there's a huge difference between kickboxing and karate. Huge difference between the people that are attracted to that, what it is that you're teaching, the output, the value proposition, the education, the methodology. So if you were teaching martial arts, it would be so diluted, for all the marketing that I'm putting out. And again, I want to be real careful about putting a marketing bent on this, because imagine you're a CPA, right? Imagine you're a CPA and you're trying to standardize a system of accounting and bookkeeping for a specific industry. There's a big difference between the way martial arts schools and kickboxing studios function and do their financial intake and the expenses that they might undertake and the cyclical nature of those markets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you want to make sure that you're niche down enough so that you're not diluting your offering. Otherwise, it's not really helpful to be niche at all. You're back to where you started.
And, I know people are saying, okay, I understand this is business. I understand that you're creating something. And I think they get the entrepreneurial platform that we're talking about here. Talk to us about the passivity behind this, because obviously you're grassrooting this stuff. You're paying attention to, hey, what's the offer? Where's the industry? We found our niche. And now we're starting to expand the hourglass. How have you structured it so you've been able to kind of create, let the fire burn by itself, if you will?
So that's the best part. Needle Marketing is run by somebody else. I have an executive director. Her name's Camille. She's brilliant. Get this. She's a software engineer turned Montessori school owner. It's a perfect blend. She knows tech. She knows Montessori. And to find her, all I did was email my list. And I said, hey, Montessori school owners, I'm looking for somebody to run Needle Marketing. Who's interested? And I got a ton of phenomenal applicants. It was actually hard to choose. But I niched down and I had such a great list.
So your niche provided your passive support, essentially.
Dude, it happens to me now. At Solutions 8, my Google Ads agency, all my hiring is off of my YouTube channel. I shoot a video a day. I have the top ranked YouTube channel for all Google Ads, or at least one of them, definitely the most active. And my call to action on my YouTube videos isn't to come be a customer. I get enough leads. It's if you're interested in working for the best Google Ads agency on the planet, go to solate.com/apply. And every single day, Kyle, sometimes twice a day, I get an application, I get a submission. So the minute I need a badass Google Ads specialist, I go straight to this little Google sheet that we have collecting in the background, and then I just start interviewing the people that have applied. Your niche provides the resources that you need. I spend 20 minutes a week on Needle Marketing.
Wow.
And that's meeting with Camille. And half the time, we either jettison the meeting or we get on there and I'm like, wow, I don't have much to talk about. Because she's such a badass and she's well incentivized. She's tethered to the output of the agency. She takes it and she runs with it. And then I get to move on. And then I'm going to go do karate. And then I'm going to put, the right people in place. And I mean, how many retired karate school owners are there that would die to have a work from home job that they can do on their own schedule, serving a group of people that they know and love?
Wow.
That's such an easy sell.
Yeah, and I know people are waiting to turn it that way because it was like, I'm starting to understand this, but how the heck does it all run? It creates itself. Oh my gosh, it's brilliant. And it's beautiful and brilliant, man. And it aligns perfectly with what we're talking about, because the question we get over and over again for a lot of people that are investing in real estate, or they have a business that they've maybe kind of worked themselves out of slowly over time, and it's starting to become passive. I'm looking for another income stream. I'm looking for another hose to put in the bucket, right? And this it doesn't happen overnight, but from start to finish, it's like get a niche down, get your clients, optimize with your people, and duplicate. That's where you're at now, Kasim.
It took me about 2.5 years with Nito before I could actually step away from the day-to-day, which was the first year. I made so many mistakes. For instance, we recorded 35 courses. Some of them are hours long on how to do all this stuff. How to set up your MailChimp, how to build your own website, how to, schedule your social posts, et cetera. 35 courses. We launched Needle Marketing, and people loved the course. That's the other thing too. I did my homework. People were super interested in the courses. Oh yeah, no, we'd love that. That'd be great. Thank you so much. Whatever. Launched Needle Marketing, thinking it's going to be mostly an education play with some services on the back end. Nobody took the courses. I still have access to all of this data. Some of them will start and then they go, can you just do this for me? But that took me 6 to 9 months between me and another young man that I'd hired full time to build these courses. And I spent 9 months building something that I didn't need. So, when I say it took me 2.5 years, it took me 2.5 years in a sandbox making a bunch of mistakes. When I do it again, which we're about to do with karate, I bet you, given what I know, within 6 months we're profitable. Within a year, I'm out. And it's set it and forget it, and then I move on. And hopefully you don't mind me pitching this. Dude, I'm looking for other opportunities to partner on. So what I need is other people that have lighthouse capabilities. If you've got a market, if you're like, oh, I know everybody that owns, I know all the ski resort owners, or like a really ultra specific niche, I'm looking for people that want to partner on that type of thing, because I know how to build it. I've cracked the code.
Wow. That's awesome, man. And we're going to take a little break, and I think we've built an amazing foundation for where I want to take this conversation in the second half, which is really getting into the granular aspects of, you talked about that 12-month build that you're at now, but for people listening that are like, oh my gosh, there's some light bulbs going off. How can we put you in a situation where you're starting and connecting the dots from A to Z? We're going to try to walk through that after the break, but we'll be right back. Hey, wanted to take a quick break from this week's episode. Wondering if you ever ask yourself, how do I get started in this stuff? Or if I'm already doing it, what are some next steps, or people that are doing the same thing that I want to do, people on this passive income journey? Well, we were getting that question, and we created a community of passive income investors called Passive Income University. This is a place where you can watch videos, things that we've done, where we put tools and information, where we've built a community of people that can communicate, ask questions, and grow together to start their passive income journey. And eventually we complete our passive income journey together. If you're interested in more info on Passive Income University, check us out at p25kg.com. We are back with episode 16, The Riches Are in the Niches, with Kasim Aslam. Kasim's already set an amazing stage for us. We're coming back to talk about this niching down concept to create the hourglass to scale up and optimize into passivity. Man, you explained to us that at this point, when you're creating a niche business, niche or niche, I love that you were playing with that earlier. I'm just going to throw around different versions the whole podcast. When you're creating a niche business, you can go from 0 to 12 months and be almost completely out by the niche hires the people for you in the business to run it eventually, which I think some of these things are really compelling. Now, I want to challenge you, and I want you to start from scratch with it. You'd explain the karate niche that you're exploring, but I think a lot of our listeners, Kasim, are people that are working a W-2 job. They're people that are getting entrepreneurs that are getting started. They're people that are already investing, but they want to, go from, level 2 to level 4. And so I'm all about tangible implementation with a lot of the content we're talking about. And I love that the end ends up in passivity, which is the goal of our of our brand, our podcast. But I really want to challenge you to take us through a build on this stuff, and maybe even a couple different examples in different industries on how someone can really start this thing. Again, touching on the mistakes you've made along the way, and then that optimization point, even diving deeper onto some of the stuff you've touched on there.
Yeah. So, the first thing is choosing the niche. Even once you have your service honed, which I'm going to assume, Kyle, if it's okay for the sake of expediency, that chances are the people listening know what they're going to offer. Because if they don't, that's a whole,
Yeah.
rabbit hole. So let's say that the service, or at least the general services. I'm in finance, I'm in legal, I'm in dentistry, I'm in mechanics, I'm in manufacturing, I'm in whatever.
Yeah. So
I'm in
like
textiles.
I'm sitting here 8 years ago, listening to a podcast in my cubicle as a structural engineer. I'm saying, hey, if I was going to, I have an expertise in knowing how to construct a bridge or, water systems. All right. So there's a service I can provide, right?
Right.
We're starting there. We're going to assume that people are there. They have an expertise.
Yeah, which I think is a fair assumption, because if you don't, the truth is, go get one. The thing that bugs me about, I'm going to jump on a quick soapbox. I have 200 clients at Solutions 8, and I get approached by people all the time to advertise for them, and they suck at what they do. They've got a product that they're drop shipping that they're not even passionate about, or they've got a service that they're offering because they took a weekend course and got some BS certification. And I don't take them as clients because A, it's a waste of my time. They're not going to be successful. And B, why would I want to give you visibility? You haven't established, you don't have to be famous. You don't have to be authority, but be good, be proficient. So go gain the proficiency. And by the way, if you don't have it, here's how you do it. Go do it for free. If you're like, you know what, I really want to figure out how to be a graphic designer or a Facebook advert or a real estate person, go find the closest person in your network and say, hey, dude, I know nothing. I'm going to come work for you for free and I'm going to learn. And those are your nights and weekends. And everybody's got that time. Don't tell me you don't, because the average American watches 4 hours of TV a day. That soapbox aside, choosing the industry is tough. And I'll tell you about a couple of my failures. Oh, wait, do I need to pause?
Nope, you're good.
Cool. A couple of my failures. So at Solutions 8, one of our higher performing campaigns was for stonemasons. We had a guy here in Phoenix, and every $1,000 he put into Google Ads produced high 5, low 6 figures worth of stonemasonry work. And we were just like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. I want all the stonemasons in the country. So we went and joined the Masonry Contractor Association of America. And we connected with the leaders there. That's our lighthouse. We did a couple of podcasts with them, paid for a couple of placements and events, got connected with the network, got everybody all ginned up and super excited, started running some ads for some stonemasons. And without fail, here's what happened. We start running ads, and then they call us and say, oh, we're booked through July, turn it off. And then we'd be like, well, I just want to hire, train. No, it was always a father and son team, by the way. I don't know why that was the stereotype, but they were not interested in scaling. They were not interested in growing. They were not interested they were just satiated. And labor was a big problem for them, especially at the time, because of the industry that we were in, or the market that we were in, excuse me. And so we found out that the service we were offering was actually massively overkill for stonemasons. So pulled the plug. Another failed industry was dentistry. We had this Dr. Ginger Price. She invented coconut toothpaste, by the way. She's now famous in a different industry. Brilliant dentist. She did implants, all on 4 implants. It's like a $50,000 procedure. And her cost to acquire an all on 4 implant patient was $2,000. She paid 2, she made 50. And we thought like, oh, this is fire. We're going to go after dentists. We start trying to go after dentists. She was our lighthouse. So we're using her name. She's kind of our partner. She's given us her certificate of whatever. And we're getting nothing back. Nothing. Emails, cold calls, pounding the pavement, paid ads. And I finally ended up getting a gentleman on the phone over the weekend, actually. And I do a lot of things feet on the street. Like I like to, even if you can farm it out, I recommend people not do that, because you want to really put your finger to the pulse. And so I'm calling these people myself, and I get a dentist on the phone, and cold calling on the weekend is the smartest thing you can do, by the way, because that's when people actually answer. They get a little pissy, but as long as you're kind and empathic, they'll forgive you. And I get this gentleman who's kind of an old crotchety dentist. And he goes, kid, I get barraged with, he calls us tech people, but it's marketing folks. He's like, you tech people. He's like, you're calling me and you're sending me your postcards and and I mean, it was such a incestuous industry that there's actually a company out there that sends, they're like little iPads. They're not really an iPad, but they're a little LCD screen that you open it up and has a custom pitch just for the dentist. And I didn't realize it, but it's an industry that is like crazy saturated. So what I'll say is if you're thinking about an industry, go do a quick litmus test first. And this is a dangerous thing to do because you don't want to stop 3 feet from gold. You don't want to make 4 or 5 phone calls and think like, this doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like you need to see it through. And you're the only person that can decide whether or not you've seen it through far enough. But when you get a positive indication that this is going to be maybe a flawed model, start to pay attention to those. And pay attention to the why. The stonemasons made perfect sense. They're too easy to saturate. The dentists made perfect sense. They're already saturated. So, I've had a couple of false starts, and I'd keep 1 foot on the dock and 1 foot on the boat. You know what I mean? Like just really put yourself in a position where you can test things before you commit all the way.
I think there's so much wisdom to that. I think of it's hard to know, right? But the feet to the pavement, feet to the street. There it is. That's such an important piece. You got to be listening. You can't get in your tunnel. I've done it myself, where you're just running so dang fast in one direction, you stop paying attention to what you're running by.
Right.
I thought of a niche while you were talking, and it was in the photography world, right? Photography is too broad. Newborn photography. Okay. I know this because I've had a couple newborns in the last couple of years. I haven't. My wife has. I've been there to support. And this industry, dude, the bill that we paid for these photos of these babies and this session, this 2-3 hour session, was larger than I expected. But the quality, I mean, this was literally a skill. This was a high advanced form of photography. And I mean that in all the ways of even spit up and excretion management, we'll call it that. But dude, this is an example was popping in my head. Let's say you're in the photography space. You say you niche down to newborn photography. Okay, so now you're marketing yourself as the newborn photographer. So now you're finding your industry. You're going out to your people. Let's say I'm a newborn photographer and I now need to find clients. Like where's your head go? Obviously, your head's going towards the digital marketing space, but put yourself in Fargo, North Dakota. You're not that you can't use the internet in Fargo, but you see where I'm going with this, Kasim.
Well, dude, this is brilliant. Such a good example, Kyle, because now I know everybody that I need to partner with. What I would be looking for are predictive indications of intent. So for instance, every midwife and every doula is going to get something from me. And it's going to be a package, and it's going to talk about how I align with the way that they treat their patients, let's say. I don't know if doulas I don't think they call them patients, but expectant moms. So midwives and doulas, every retail, especially solo owned retail, if you sell any secondhand baby gear, you're now my BFF. I come in and here's what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to do a free photo shoot. Listen, I know it's really hard to trust. I know you've spent this time cultivating this network of people. I want to show you how good I am. How would you like a free professional photo session of your entire retail location and then of your entire birthing center? And if you think about the industries that are built around birth, there's hundreds of thousands, right? Like it's maybe one of the most invested because people spend so much money on it. And it gives you the opportunity to know exactly who you need to partner with. And then you now have the opportunity to market in a silo. What you don't want to be is a newborn photographer who's trying to market to people who are searching for newborn photographers, because that just instantly becomes a race to the bottom price discussion. What you do want to be is the newborn photographer that's had a heartfelt conversation with the expectant mom and told her, hey, here are a couple of things that you might be concerned about, or, some of the things that you need to know. and you've given them awesome literature, and you've said, hey, the best time for newborn photography, by the way, actually isn't the first week, because, like the baby still has the newborn residue and mom doesn't feel, I prefer weeks 3 to 4. And incidentally, here's my one sheet on things that you can do. And by the way, if you're going to bring outfits for newborn photography, you don't want to use patterns, because patterns are going to show, pixelated inside. So here are the things that I recommend. And now you're a thought leader. You're a trusted resource. And people would feel pretty weird, I think, after having that. And by that conversation doesn't even have to be in person, incidentally. It doesn't have to be analog. That could be digital. That could be a video that they get, or an Instagram tag. But now I need to go to you, because you're the one that you've told me 3 really good things that I all agree with. What other 50 things do you know that I don't necessarily know? You're the best locations for newborn photography. Do you have a little boy or a little girl? Because that's going to make a really huge difference in what we do. Do you want the grandparents involved? Yay or nay on both sides? Are there any siblings? Like, now you just had the opportunity to showcase your authority as a thought leader in this space and put it in front of people before they even knew they wanted a newborn photographer. And you have more or less a strong lifetime value of a customer, because especially in the Midwest, if people have one baby, they have 5 babies. And so you've got, 2 or 3 or 4 people lined up, and maybe there's, some package that you put together, and you could even have like the collage that, hey, what we're going to do is we're going to do a time lapse. So I like to take the same pose with the newborn, at least one of the same pose each time, but then we add the sibling into that pose. And so what I get to do, and then you show them, and you're like, here's the timeline where all these, it's like a cartoon, just little kids popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
And you're always holding it. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so many creative things that you could possibly do.
I love it. And what I'm hearing, man, is the basis of all this is being super interested in your niche.
You have to love them. That's the thing.
To just be like, you have to be addicted to it. You have to be consuming this information. I think of it like that. You don't know any of that stuff unless you're up at 11 o'clock at night scrolling on a new article that you saw about, newborn photography or that style of thing. So the question is, what are you doing? What are you scrolling at night randomly? That's productive. That is. Because you have to, because all the value you described there, the creativity that was spewing from your brain was all just very tactical, but interesting and practical information that can be utilized. And then you're saying, give it for free, provide value, over provide value, create the trusted resource. Okay, so then we're there, Kasim. We now have our niche. We're now we're now a trusted resource. We have some relationships built, right? We're getting there.
Can I add one more that I just thought of?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm so sorry, Kyle. So this is dangerous, by the way, and I'd only do this if I was well-established and well-funded. If you go to the right birthing center, let's say there's a birthing center that has 80% of your avatar, and they're probably more affluent and, they can afford. I go to the birthing center and say, hey, anybody you send me gets one free look, one free shot. And it's because of you. So it could even be like sponsored by Bloom Birthing Center. And now Bloom gets to be like this hero to all of their clients and say, hey, because you came to Bloom, you get a free shot with one of the premier newborn photographers in all of Fargo. Now, what parent only wants one shot? What kind of psychopathic, empathy lacking nut job would get all dolled up, get through hair and makeup, get all these? They want 500,000 shots, right?
Yes.
But you get them out there, they're not going to turn you down, because that's a hell of an offer. You get them out there, and it's not a bait and switch either. It's an ascension. It's like, hey, if you want to come out, how many shots do you want? And this is what the model looks like. And incidentally, here's my retail pricing, and here's the special pricing you get because you came through Bloom.
Man, I love, and this really requires people to put their marketing hat on. But again, marketing is not the right word. It's literally just value and providing what I love the exercise done where you create all of the pain points around a topic, and then you create 5 solutions for every pain point. And it's this big brainstorming spider map. And it creates all of the answers to what you need to provide people. Perfect example was when you said, what's the right time to get your newborn photos taken? Okay, so that's the one problem. So then you create 5 different reasons or topic, 3 things to note when you're taking your first newborn pictures. Top 5 outfits for taking newborn pictures. All these different things around timing, around when's the right. You're solving that problem. You're answering that question multiple different ways, and then you're creating content. You're creating those guides. You're creating that video. So you do have to put it on a little bit. You have to put yourself in a place of, I'm going to provide value and have creativity behind the idea of who I want to trust me. Now, let's say you get there, and let's say you're the photographer, Kasim, and you're great, but your goal is not to snap pictures for 40 years till your finger falls off.
Right.
This is a classic thing we see in so many industries where you just want to be the muscle forever, but in order for you to have freedom, you have to work out of it, right? Is this as simple? Let's use the photography example. Is this as simple as training the right people, putting them in the right places, or is there other thoughts behind this optimization phase?
Dude, think about this. There's only so many newborns being born in Fargo, North Dakota. If I was that photographer, I would take all those things that I created, all the videos, all the resources, all the one sheets, all the checklists, all the pro tips, and I would be going one in every major city. There's 250 major cities in the United States. And I'd be selling that on a exclusivity basis. So I'd come in there and be like, hey, I'm only giving this one person in San Antonio, and I'm going to train you. I'm going to teach you exactly how I scaled up my newborn photography business in Fargo, North Dakota. Because can you go hire a photographer to take over all your work? Yeah. But there's such a distinct ceiling there. What you need to do is look at the thing that's most scalable. And the thing that's most scalable is the content, the model that you just built. And I realize this gets a little inception worthy, right? Because now we're not even talking about photography anymore. We're talking about what's almost a franchise, but not, because that's heavily regulated. But you go take all of the junk that you just built and the model that you created, because it's more than just a Dropbox full of repository, right? There's a whole system to relationship building, how you approach, how you nurture, the sequence with which you nurture, who you're approaching with what information, in what context, in what way, how you bill, how you discount. So then I go to all the photographers and I go find one in every city. And I provide them with that on a recurring revenue basis. And dude, I'd even do their ads. It's like, hey, I have your website. I have all of your ads. I have all the content. I have all the social posts that you're going to need recurring. I have your nurture built out. I might go as far as call center. I'll take all your calls. I think you should do this in real estate, by the way. The minute you crack the code on Pat Live has done this a little bit, not well, because the Pat Live people aren't friendly. But the minute you crack the code on real estate intake, dude, that's such a sensitive conversation. So high stakes. And because I've done so much real estate lead gen, I can tell you it's always the dumbest person in the office on the first phone call. And they're imbeciles because their time is worth the least. So if you were to create nothing but a niche down phone bank and all you do is phone call intake for realtors, like what kind of value could you provide?
That is one of the biggest gaps. You're right about that, man.
You know what I mean? And, like once you crack the code, that's how you find your service.
And it's a wormhole of thought that finds you in that place, but you see the gap. You know what? One of the you did a video seminar on this topic, not a seminar, but a recording, and you explained the social media need. You had with Nido Marketing, your Montessori schools were like, hey, we don't have a blog every month, or we don't have a social media post every day, and tell the story behind how you solved that problem, because I saw the answer on the video, obviously.
Yeah, if I remember the story correctly, we write one social post for every single day that links to a separate resource. By the way, they're not our resources. So we go to AMS or AMI, which are the two big organizations, or there's a lot of mommy bloggers talking about Montessori, and we create one social post for every day. We hand them a Google Doc, basically, or a Word document, and then they can modify that post if they want, or they can send it back to us and we schedule it for them. So now they get a social post on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, Facebook and Twitter every day, Instagram one a week, because it's more difficult to come up with media-based posts. And now if you're a parent and you're doing research on this Montessori school, they look cash flush, so to speak, from a social. It looks like they're actually engaging. They look like they're thought leaders in the space too, and they have to do zero work. How long would it take to read over 30 social posts? 10 minutes?
Huge value. And then the question popped up in my head. I was like, well, what did you and your team spend all this time writing these posts in these blogs? Well, no. You ended up finding a retired Montessori owner that
there was
you paid
a Montessori
$700 a month or something.
So we had two now. The first gal, her name was Christy. She was amazing. She was a Montessori guide. That's what they call teachers in Montessori schools. She was a Montessori guide, and she just wanted some side hustle money. And so she was working for us for, 2.5 or 3 years. She just recently left because she got another gig that's occupying more of her time. But dude, here's the best part. What a difficult resource for anybody else to replace. I just go to my well and say, hey, I need a writer. And I was inundated. It actually, Kyle, it was a problem because I didn't want to piss people off. It was a very real, I had so many submissions that I was actually like, oh gosh, how am I going to say no to all these, some of them were clients. It was an issue, but what a
they
great,
wanted
great,
to write
great
the content. Yeah. Oh my gosh, man. It's it's such a look at a problem from two different perspectives, man. Because I sit here and think, who in the heck could you find to write such a specialized blog or specialized social media post that would be so engaging? Well, you didn't have to answer that question. Your community did. And then you're completely out of it. You shouldn't be doing it anyway, But dude, this topic matter it's groundbreaking, and like I said, it shouldn't be, because it's just talking about focus. But it's so cool to hear how you've broken it down. I think at this time, our audience has leaned into the expertise and the brilliance behind Kasim Aslam. And I want to end with I just want to dive into your brain a little bit and share with the audience some of why you have been successful in business, in your lifestyle, with your family, how you operate. You can literally feel your brain coming up with ideas, and everything you're touching is kind of turning into gold right in front of us, it seems. But how did you get here? Because I think people want to dive into anybody that's at that level and learn more about them.
Yeah, I've been humbled in life quite a few times. And so I don't mind doing the hard work, but maybe more importantly, I don't mind voicing when I don't know. If you and I are talking and you use a word I don't know, this is true, by the way, spot check me on this, because you and I are buddies. So go look up some $50 words and drop one in conversation with me one day. If I don't understand a word somebody uses, I stop them. And it's a hard thing for an adult person to do. And I go, I'm so sorry. I know this is weird. Would you mind telling me what that means? Because I want to be able to use that word in the future. And that applies to a lot of things in life. Like if I'm having finance conversations with people, and I never went to college. I don't know. I just learned what EBITDA means. You know what I mean? But I don't mind stopping the conversation and saying, can you catch me up? And so much of life is just nomenclature, but so much of life is like the 90% of the learning is accessible to you as long as you're willing to do the 10% of the digging. And I can tell you, as somebody that's trying to be an educator and maybe failing, I get on calls like this and I start talking to folks, and I can tell they're excited and I can tell they're engaged, but I can also tell that there's a couple of points where I've lost them and I don't know where those points are. And you saw the training that I did with the front row dads. I try to stop and say, hey, any questions? But I feel like pride and ego get in people's way. And because I have been humbled in life, I have no pride. Like I'm just like, hey, I'm starting from the bottom, and I don't mind being the dumbest person in the room, because I know that serves me. So I think that that's maybe idea number one. And then idea number two, I've stolen, to be honest with you, from Jordan Peterson, who I love dearly and deeply. I call him my digital dad. But my 3 core values come from him, and they're in order. They're hierarchically structured. It's truth, responsibility, and love. And everybody puts love first. And the reason I don't think love can come first is because love without truth is blind, and love without responsibility is impotent. So before you have love and before you have responsibility, you have to have truth. And I'm obsessive. If I don't know, I'll tell you, oh, dude, I have no idea. If I'm selling to somebody, and this is where a lot of business owners get in trouble, is you feel like you need a posture. I cannot begin to tell you how many times people have told me, like, oh, thank God you said that. I really appreciate you being honest. Like if I'm like, oh, I don't know if that integrates, or I don't know if that works, or I've never tried this before. I try to talk them out of a little bit. I'm like, hey, this is a sandbox. You're paying me to learn. I use that term all the time. Hey, just so you know, I've never worked in this industry before. I have no idea what's going to happen. You're paying me to learn. And they're like, I've talked to 20 different Google Ads agencies. You're the only person that ever said that. Take my money as fast as you can. The truth is the most potent and powerful shield and sword. It's a defense and it's an offense. And then being responsible is not hard. It's tedious. Do what you say, and that sounds a little preachy, so maybe I won't jump on that soapbox too much. And then the last one is, I don't believe you deserve to serve anybody unless you find yourself deeply in love with them. And you should be able to fall in love with just about any group or any demographic that you're willing to learn enough about. If you're a right winger and you're going to go serve a bunch of leftists, bet money, if you really spend a long time trying to figure out why they think the way they think and why they do the things that they do, you can fall in love with them. Same thing if you're a lefty and you're going to go serve a bunch of hardcore right-wing conservatives. Like if you don't, and I'm using that example because that's the most readily accessible to us because we have polarization in our society, but you should find yourself in love with everybody that you want to serve. And if you're not, don't. Because there's a lot of people out there that hate the people they work with. I know a lot of them. Some of them are my clients. And they look down on them. You know, they diminish them. They disparage them. And they think they're lemmings. And I think it's a catastrophically flawed model because even if you're making money, I just feel like that's poison, man. Yeah. And I don't think that money sticks around. I don't think that it goes anywhere. I don't think that you're allowed ascension. I don't think that there's blessing to it. You know what I mean? So if those are the three things that I try to hold to. I don't know how well I do. You know, it's easy to sit on a podcast and talk about how awesome you are when it comes to your values. But, you know, like when the rubber meets the road, it's always a different story, right? And we all meet our challenges. But I'm trying to answer your question as honestly as I can without sounding like a virtue signaling blowhard.
It's really good, and it's a really good way to end. I remember the moment for me as a young investor when tenants turned into people for me, and I stopped calling them tenants, and I started calling them by their names and their situations, and it took failure for me to have to humble myself to experience that this is their shelter. This is this is not just business to me. I happen to own this property. I used my money to buy it. You're happening to live in it. You're executing your life within the walls of this property.
So
we're partners.
Home.
We're doing this together. I need you just as much as you need me. Let's be friends. Let's fall in love, to use the term. You know what I mean? In a sense. And so that really hit with me, man. And I think it's such sage advice. Kasim, you dropped some knowledge today, dude. I'm going to have to re-listen to this, man. I love podcasts where I learn the most from. And I just think that this has so many different routes that people can take it. And so I'm just so appreciative of the value you've provided. I'm more appreciative of the life we get to live together alongside each other as brothers and front row dads. It's been an amazing experience getting to know you and just having the off the cuff conversations with you, man. I've always appreciated your heart, and I respect you immensely as a father, as a husband, and as somebody that really does take responsibility in all the different camps of your life. So, dude, I just wanted to affirm you that way. And thank you so much for coming on, dude. This was awesome time. How can people find you, man? How can people find you?
If you can't find me, don't listen to what I'm talking about because I'm supposed to be a digital marketer. But you know, I'm pretty active on Twitter. You can look for Kasim Aslam. You can go to solate.com if you want Google Ads help. You can go to kasimaslam.com if you want to see my exercise in narcissism. I'm pretty accessible.
All right, man. We'll wrap it up. Thanks so much.
Appreciate you for having me, Kyle. Thanks, man.
This has been the Passive 25K podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future conversations. Also, tell us what you thought by leaving a comment below on today's topic. If something really hit with you, don't be afraid to share this with someone else that's interested in passive income. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll catch you next time for another episode of the Passive 25K podcast.